but unfortunately the number of executions have risen. Mrs. Mina Ahadi, who was born in Tehran, she studied medicine in Tabriz, and after the establishment of the Islamic Republic of Iran in 1979, because of her activism against the regime at that time, she was expelled from the university, and her husband was executed in the prison of Tabriz, and Mina herself was sentenced to death in court. In 2001, she establishes the International Committee Against Stoning, and in 2004, the International Committee Against Death Penalty in Germany. She is one of the best known people against death penalty in Iran and in the international arena. She has participated in different campaigns to save the life of Sakineh Mohammad Ashtiani, and the campaign to save the life of Nazanin Fatehi, Kobra Rahmanipur, and Rehani Jabbari. Mrs. Ahadi, please start your speak. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful to the organizers of this event, and I'm very happy to be here with you. You know that we are speaking about a country that practices death penalty for the past 34 years, and everywhere that I go to and talk about death penalty, the people who are in the hall, they go out of the meeting crying. I hope the same does not happen today, but what I want to say is that we're talking about a country and a place where the government from the first day that it started its ruling, it started killing and executing people. So the majority of us, we have this wound in our hearts. And this year is the anniversary of the chain killing of the 80s. And so many of us have actually suffered from depression, and we can say depressions that come and go because we remember those times, and many of you have heard about those chain killings. Now allow me to speak about a different aspect about death penalty in Iran. And I would like to talk about struggling against death penalty. As you know, and as you heard about my biography, I was 23 when my husband was executed, and I was myself sentenced to death. And so the idea of death penalty is actually, in a way, I've been living with it for the past years. And at some stage I said we have to do something about it. I have to protest against it. The international organization should do something about it. And I'm a person who goes from one parliament to another, from one office to another, and I've seen this very poshy style of talking about death penalty, but unfortunately, real struggle I did not see, and so I decided to do it in a different way. And I would like to now to share with you what is it that we have done. We've done very well, in fact. It was very effective, and it has actually produced a social movement within Iran, and something I want to take out the struggle or the help of the European Parliament and other European parliaments out of European organizations, out of this equation. I want to talk about the struggle of the people of Iran, the struggle of the victims, and the campaign that was actually and the flag or the banner that was waved by the victims in Iran and their families. And now I would like to very briefly talk about the judicial system in Iran, and we cannot do anything about it. Now look at this. She is Rehani Jabbari. She was 19 years old. 7 years ago, in an accident, someone who is the age of her father tries to rape her. And at that age, she takes a knife out of the kitchen, she goes and stabs that person. And now the thing is, the person who wanted to rape her was a member of the intelligence office in Iran. She was arrested. She was tortured in Iran. They pull off the nails of her feet and they force her to go and have a public confession. And now allow me to show you the second photo. Zanyar and Luqman Moradi. They are like my own children. They talked to me from prison. Zanyar said, Mina, I am like your son. Please do something about it. When these two were arrested, they were so severely tortured, and they told them that we will rape you with a bottle and read what we've written for you. Next person, Shahla Jahed. Unfortunately, in Iran, she was executed. Fine, but when she was arrested because of death. They tortured her so severely and told her to read what they had written. She came to court because she was a very free thinker. She said that I will take on anything that you want to tell about my case because of the things that you have done to me in prison. She calls me and she says, Mina, there's nothing to do. I just want to say goodbye to you. I was crying, she was crying, and she said, you've done your best. And because it's the age of internet and Facebook, 2 a.m, we accompanied her family at the time that she was executed because her family were at the door of the Evin prison. We could hear everything that they would say about Shahla. They said Shahla was executed. She was tortured and she was sentenced to a death. The last person, Mr. Gholam Reza Khosravi Sawajani, and he was accused for helping financially Mujahideen. Mr. Khosravi was tortured and he was obliged to give a confession. What I want to say here is it doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man, political prisoner, or if you were charged for murder. Everyone is tortured. They oblige you to confess, and this is the system that the judicial system functions and works in Iran. Yes, we finished with the photographs. Thank you. Now, according to this system, people are sentenced to death and they are finally executed. What I want to say here is that, and you've heard it here, the law is based on Sharia. So if I want to go to Iran and say I am an atheist, they can actually execute me. What matters here is that the movement, the people that say that Mr. Rouhani comes and the situation improves, or we can reform the system, then they have an answer to their hopes and their wishes. The Islamic Republic of Iran, they execute in the prisons of Tabriz. They publicly executed people in Tabriz. Why? Because they want to scare the general public. Since I don't have time, I would like to say the following. In Iran, we have a movement against death penalty, and I have established the International Committee Against Death Penalty, and I always thought that if we go and talk to people about death penalty, and since we have death penalty in many people, actually many countries in the world, they don't actually do executions, they don't have death penalty in their punishment, so maybe it's not very attractive for them to speak about it. So what we decided that we're going to use photographs, images. Why? Because then you realize you're not talking about numbers here. When we say 400 people were executed, maybe we don't have any feelings when we say these numbers. But when we have these photographs here and we say the first executions that took place in Iran are these 4 women. 2 of them were saved and 2 were executed. And when you talk about their situation, why were they arrested, why they killed, what have they done, and how they were treated in prison, then you will be able to attract many people's attention. I think the movement against death penalty in Iran is based on the visual effect. We have to talk about people, show their faces, talk about their lives and their destiny. What matters here is that the movement against death penalty in Iran, it's actually blind to the fact that why this person was sentenced to death. For me, it does not matter why 900 people were sentenced to death penalty in one of the prisons in Iran. We say that it doesn't matter what these people have done. Death penalty should not be exercised on these cases. Doesn't matter they're Kurds, they're Turk. What have they done? What have they committed? It doesn't matter. We are against death penalty. We have this globalized and international movement against death penalty in Iran itself. We say we give dignity to those people who were sentenced to death penalty, and don't allow the government of Iran to say that this people is an assassinate. This person is a murderer, this people did this and that, and so they deserve to be killed. These two people, for example, they are accused of theft, and they executed these two young brothers. The mother of these two young brothers started the campaign now. And when you hear about their stories, you realize what atrocity that was. So some of these protests in Iran, the prisoners themselves actually, I had actually left my phone was on, and I have 23 voices recorded in my mobile phone, people who are sentenced to death. When you hear the voice of these prisoners, you will realize the feeling that you have, and the feeling that you have for those who are sentenced to death. Their families participate in this struggle. People actually participate in this struggle. And I think the movement for forgiveness in Iran is very important. The photograph of that person, of that mother who slaps the face of the person who actually killed her son, and takes away the robe from off his neck. I think that photograph was very important, and I think it's been very effective to create the culture of forgiveness in our country. The campaign of Rehane and the campaign of Sakineh Ashtiani, 2 million people have signed it, in comparison to the few thousand of people who signed the campaign to free Rehane. Anyone who wants to has a feeling against death penalty, you should not only have feelings about it, we have to do something actively. I'm very happy to be here, talk about this in the UN offices here, the UN and all the organizations related to the UN. We should condemn the government of Iran. We have done so much related to this, but when we've actually protested and we have said so to the government of Iran, they start justifying the different cases of people who were executed. But I think we have to do is we have to take the government of Iran itself and its high officials to court, accused of genocide. Thank you so much.